Are we ready? It's good to see you. Are we ready? All right, so give me some shout outs. The song that is giving you the most joy right now. Shout outs. Song that's giving you the most joy right now. There we go. Anybody else? Well, it got you quiet. Not participatory, but it did at least get you quiet. So I think we'll start from there. It's so good to see you all here, and welcome. My name is Tiziana Deering. Welcome to the Brookline Center's 2024 Women at the Center Kickoff. And for me, it's Texas Hold'em, by the way, just to be clear about it. Thank you. It is an honor and a pleasure to be your MC this evening. The event has become one that I really look forward to. I know I'm going to learn, and I know we're going to be in a community of people who share a passion for mental wellness. So it's great to see you here. Thank you for those joining us here in the building, Harvard Club of Boston, and to the friends of the Brookline Center from across the country that are tuning in on live stream. Let me let you know what to expect. Throughout tonight's program, we're going to deepen our understanding of women and girls' mental health. We're going to hear stories of resilience and healing, and we're going to learn how the Brookline Center is broadening its impact on the mental health care system through meaningful innovation and compassionate care. I know that you are excited to welcome our esteemed guest, Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Campbell. I am very much excited about and looking forward to this conversation. It's been a joy to follow her career through elected office all the way to the Attorney General's office. You can look forward to a robust conversation where we'll talk about leading in the public eye, navigating challenges, how her personal story has shaped her views and her political career, and maybe why her skin looks so good given how hard she's working. We'll see if we get to that. From the headlines to our own lives, we know that women and girls' mental health are an enormous public health challenge. Last year, and this is important, last year the CDC released a report that showed 30% of teen girls have seriously considered dying by suicide. That is a percentage that has increased by nearly 60% over the past decade. And a recent Kaiser Family Foundation report found that 50% of all women who need mental health support cannot access it. Your participation tonight is a testament to your commitment to listen, to learn, to act, contributing to a collective effort to bring about positive change for women and girls. Now, as some of you may remember, we had a little bit of a hiccup with the sound system last year, so I don't want you to fret. We want you to be able to hear every word of tonight's event, whether you're in the room or on the live stream, so we have brought in an upgraded sound system. We'll be monitoring AV throughout the program, but I have two requests, please. The first is, you're carrying a device. I know you are. If you could please put that on either airplane or do not disturb now, I'd be sincerely grateful. And the second is a reminder that sound travels a lot. Look at the echo of the cavern in this room. So when there are people here on stage speaking, if we could ask you to eliminate table conversation, just because it gives sort of audio blowback that makes it hard for other people to hear. I appreciate those accommodations. It is wonderful to be here with you. And now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Ian Lang, who is the CEO of the Brookline Center.
Thank you, Tiziana, and good evening, women at the Center. I'm always proud to be part of this inspiring event, and it's incredible to see such a strong show of support for the Brookline Center. Attorney General Campbell, we are grateful for your advocacy on behalf of the citizens of Massachusetts and honored to welcome you here this evening. Thank you so much. At the Brookline Center, our vision is to transform the mental health system to be effective and equitable for all. For years, public health officials have advocated for greater attention and resources for mental health. More people than ever need care. Arguably, we all need mental health support, and yet we continue to treat mental health care through the lens of specialty care rather than primary care. The number of people struggling continues to increase. Our system cannot adapt and grow fast enough. Faced with a fundamentally flawed system, to effectively meet the changing needs of our communities in Brookline and beyond, we need to transform the system itself. With the launch of the Innovation Institute last year, the center began its evolution from a traditional outpatient-centered community mental health provider to an innovation hub for designing and providing groundbreaking mental health programs and services. The Institute aims to change where care is delivered, how we provide care, and who provides that care. Through the strategic use of resources, we can create new community-responsive approaches to care that improve outcomes, increase access, and reduce costs. Since its founding by Edna Stein nearly 70 years ago, the Brookline Center has been known for its field-defining impact. Together, we can expand the center's impact while continuing to deliver outstanding care here at home. I invite you to join me in this vital work, and I thank you for your support tonight. It is now my pleasure to hand the baton to Brookline Center board member Dana Lazowski, Chair of Women at the Center.
Hi. Thank you, Ian. It's amazing to look out here and see 300 of you gathered here to support women and girls' mental health. I thank you for being here tonight. Each of us has experienced mental health challenges, either of our own or of a loved one. We are all impacted by the mental health crisis our community is facing, as well as countless communities across the country. And what we see time and again is that women and girls face a multitude of unique challenges shaped by social, cultural, and systemic pressures that compound their mental health struggles. We created Women at the Center to unite local women and men to champion women's and girls' mental well-being, to elevate awareness surrounding mental health issues, and to nurture deeper community connections. Without you all, there is literally no Women at the Center. You make this all possible, and we sincerely appreciate your commitment and your generous support. When we prioritize women and girls' mental health, we create a ripple effect that extends far beyond individual lives. We foster healthier families, stronger communities, and a more compassionate society where everyone's mental health is valued and supported. This year's kickoff client speakers are an incredible mother-daughter duo. They are my dear friends, and they are a large part of the reason I am so passionate and committed to the Brookline Center. Madeline Abbott graduated from Brookline High School in 2017. As you will hear, she is a young woman of exceptional courage and resilience. Her mother, Nancy Abbott, joins her on the stage to share their family's story of hope, strength, and the power of support in navigating the complexities of mental illness. This is a story of struggle and of unwavering love. It exemplifies the Brookline Center's innovative approach and transformative impact on both the lives of individuals and of families. And it also illustrates the profound effect that your participation in tonight's event makes possible. So please join me in extending the warmest of welcomes to Madeline and Nancy Abbott.
When my mom texted that Dana had asked if I would consider speaking tonight, I immediately texted back, "Tell Dana I'm in." I wouldn't be standing before you today without the support of the Brookline Center's Bright program, and it feels good to give back by sharing my story with you. I'm doubly happy to be here with my mom.
Madeline was an easy child, probably the easiest of my 3 daughters. She was fun and funny and a kid everyone adored. But under her bright disposition, Madeline was living with tremendous pain. Outwardly, there were no visible signs. She was so good at hiding her inner life that I didn't learn about the depths of her depression until she was in high school.
I can remember wanting to die from a very young age. In 4th grade, I tried to share my feelings with my parents, but there was no room for that conversation. I now understand they truly didn't see how much I was struggling and in pain. Back then, all I understood was that I had to keep those feelings to myself, so I continued to pretend all was okay until I couldn't pretend anymore.
When you think of the typical Brookline parents, the word helicopter might come to mind. No offense, that was not us. We played Rose and Thorn at dinner every night, but we were the pull yourselves up by the bootstraps kind of parents. We didn't recognize that Madeline didn't have boots, let alone straps to pull on.
My first time in Bright was actually not related to my depression. It was after being burned by a pot of oil during cooking class and missing school. Bright helped me catch up on work. It was a place I could go when the physical pain of the burns was in the way of my going to class. It was the first time I experienced the safety of Bright. Because of my burns, I couldn't participate in cross country, which had helped keep my depression and anxiety in check. My depression got so bad later in my sophomore year that I couldn't go to school.
I remember Madeline in her coat, lying face down in front of our door, backpack strapped on, crying that she couldn't do it anymore. It was as if the backpack was a boulder. The weight of her emotional burden was so immense. She told me she was exhausted by pretending all day, every day. Madeline had been cycling through one antidepressant after another. Nothing was working. It was evident that she needed more support in the form of a partial hospitalization. Of course, that meant 2 more weeks out of school. After attending the partial program, going back to school was hard, but Bright was a huge help, supporting her, advocating for her, and providing a safe place to be when she felt overwhelmed.
My junior year started better. I felt well enough to rejoin cross country, and attending school was manageable. But soon the blackness of my depression descended again, and wanting to die was always on my mind. After getting home from a track event late one October night, I swallowed 17,000 milligrams of Tylenol and went back to sleep. See, I researched how much Tylenol would kill me, and then I made sure to take more than double that amount. Luckily, it was a few hours after I went to bed, my sister Emily got up to use the bathroom, something she never did, and accidentally woke me up, saving my life.
There are moments in life that you never forget, one moment frozen in time forever. Madeline waking us up in the middle of the night, telling us she had taken that Tylenol. That's a nightmare that will be with me. We took her to Children's Hospital ER, and it was clear to every clinician who interviewed Madeline that her overdose was an intentional suicide attempt. She was admitted to the Children's inpatient psych unit, and after spending a week at Children's, she was transferred to McLean and spent a month in treatment. The prospect of Madeline coming home was terrifying for me. Of course, I wanted her home, but what if she didn't get better? What if she tried again? What if school becomes too overwhelming again? But before Madeline was discharged from the hospital, we met with the Bright team, and they reassured me she would be safe and in good hands. I do remember feeling a glimmer of hope in that meeting. Bright was Madeline's sanctuary, but I was still worried for her all the time, and I was just going through the motions in every other area of my life. I was slowly falling apart myself. Eventually, I reached out to the Brookline Center and got connected with an excellent therapist who helped me work through my feelings of sadness and fear and guilt, and I was able to better manage my stress and anxiety.
The thought of returning to school was paralyzing. knowing I would need to catch up on weeks of classes and that people would be talking about where I had been made going back feel impossible. But Bright made it possible. The Bright staff worked hard to ensure that I felt safe and set up for success. They were so kind and patient. Being in a completely judgment-free space with kids going through similar experiences took so much pressure off. The first laughs I had after being hospitalized were in the Bright room. Bright gave me the support to walk into BHS every morning, slowly get caught up, return to a regular class schedule, and get through my junior and senior years. I wish I could tell you that my happy ending was graduating from Brookline High and heading off to college. At James Madison, my depression resurfaced. By spring semester, I was barely getting out of bed. A summer at home helped me stabilize, and I begged to return to Virginia in the fall. After my mental health tanked again, I left school for winter break and returned to Brookline for good. For a while, I was doing better, taking college classes locally, and then came COVID.
While COVID was hard for everyone, it was especially tough for people already struggling with their mental health. Madeline's depression worsened, as did her thoughts of suicide. Again, we turned to the Brookline Center, and the center helped her immensely in so many ways. She was connected to a talented, caring therapist who again gave Madeline the support she needed to keep moving forward.
2 years ago, I moved to Boulder, Colorado. The friends from Brookline were relocating for work and eager for a fresh start. I joined them. It was a huge leap, and I can't say it's always been easy, but I have a job I love, and I live in a beautiful city. In May, I turned 25. I never, ever thought I would make it to 25.
To see my child, who at one point literally could not get off the floor, who begged us to let her die. Living a happy, independent adult life is incredible. I'm so proud of her, and I'm enormously grateful to the Brookline Center. The Brookline Center is an invaluable resource, and the Bright program is life-saving. I do not doubt that if Madeline had been in school anywhere else, she would not be alive today. The academic support, clinical support, family support, and advocacy, you can't measure it. Parenting a child with a severe mental health condition is scary, overwhelming, and sometimes isolating. Being able to connect with someone at the center who was there to listen to my feelings and what I was going through kept my head above water. There are so many young people like Madeline and parents like me who will find their way to the Brookline Center. Your support tonight saves lives.
I used to live under a dark sky where there was never any light and it rained all the time. Little by little, it got lighter. Now, there are some rainy days and dark clouds overhead, but the rain goes away and the clouds don't stick around long. I know how to ditch them. And my life is just so, so much happier. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Hi, everyone. I'm Jody, and I was asked to do this part here. And when I got my script here from Nancy, I didn't know who Madeline and Nancy were, so I didn't know anything that they were going to talk about. So I was supposed to thank them for sharing their journey tonight, and I just really want to thank you guys for that. That was unbelievable, and I obviously inspired everybody here. I'm sure many of us in this room are parents, and you both are really brave and resilient. So thank you so much for all of that. Okay, so you remind us that women and girls are not just recipients of care, they're agents of change. Maddie and Nancy's story demonstrates that transformation is possible with access to the proper support. It also exemplifies how meaningful innovation and compassionate care saves lives. BRIT, the program that helped Maddie that we just learned about, was designed and launched by the Brookline Center 20 years ago. At that time, BRIT was groundbreaking, and sadly, today, it still is. In 2024, thousands of smart, capable students with serious mental health challenges will drop out of school, or worse, because when they experience a mental health crisis, there will be no program like BRIT to help them and their families. By pushing the boundaries of conventional practice, the Brookline Center is setting new standards for mental health care and bringing it right to those who need it the most. As a longtime supporter of the Brookline Center and member of the Women at the Center Leadership Committee, I have always felt proud knowing that the center was founded by a Brookline woman, Edna Stein. The Edna Stein Leadership Giving Society was established for supporters to build the Edna's legacy of optimism, progress, and community. It's a big community. If you look around, you'll notice I'm with Edna buttons, worn by many members in the room. Tonight, this is my big ask, tonight I hope you will join me as a member of the Edna Stein Society with a gift or a pledge of $1,000 or more, or by signing up for a monthly contribution of $100. If you are able, consider making a commitment of $10,000 and joining the Founders Innovation Circle. That's heroic, if you can do that. If you are here as a guest, this is a moment to thank your host and pay it forward. And if you became an Edna Stein member at last year's kickoff, thank you. This is your time to renew. In your booklet, there's an I'm with Edna card on which you can make a gift of any amount to support the center's work. You can also scan the QR code on your table to make an online donation. Gifts of every size are needed and appreciated. What matters most is that we are all with Edna tonight. This isn't on my speech, but today as I was leaving work, I mentioned to my colleagues that I was coming to this event tonight, and one of my colleagues, who had a very serious mental health crisis in her family many years ago, said to me, "Oh my God, please say to this crowd that the Brookline Center saved my life, my husband's life, and we wouldn't have had our third child if it wasn't for the Brookline Center." So she said, so I'm gonna give that message to you guys. And that was over 10 years ago now, but that really helped her. So thank you for taking a moment now to make your gift. And now I will awkwardly pause for 30 seconds while you all make your gifts. Everyone go. Good. Okay. Thank you for your support of the Edna's vision and the bold work of the Brookline Center. We are really grateful for anything that you can do tonight. Now it is my pleasure to introduce the president of the Brookline Center's Board of Directors, Tom Galatano.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jody, and thank you to each and every one of you here in the room and those at home for your participation, for your generosity, and for your commitment this evening. Last year, I was up at the podium and I gave everyone an extra 30 seconds to fill out those cards. So if you haven't filled it out already, there's also a QR code on your table. Before I start my official remarks, I also just want to thank again Maddie and Nancy Abbott. Your story tonight was incredible, an incredible journey, and we thank you. Now, as the president of the Brookline Center Board, it is my special honor and privilege to welcome the 45th Massachusetts Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, to this 2024 kickoff. You know, first impressions can be very powerful, and often they turn out to be spot on. I first met Andrea about 11 years ago in 2013 when she joined Governor Deval Patrick's legal staff as his deputy legal counsel. Among other things on Andrea's plate, she served as a liaison to the MCAD advisory board to the governor, which I chaired. Andrea's path to working for Governor Patrick included working as a legal services attorney for the Ed Law Project, where she focused on defending the rights of children and families, especially those with disabilities. She worked as an employment lawyer at Proskauer. She served for a short time as general counsel for the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. My first impressions upon working with Andrea was that she was bright, she was passionate about causes that mattered to her, and she was driven to deliver. Those impressions could not have been more accurate. What I didn't know, but I came to learn, was that she had overcome tremendous hardship early in her life. But despite all that, she went on to become the first person in her family to attend and graduate from college, a small liberal arts college called Princeton, and then went on to study law and graduate from UCLA Law School. After working for Governor Patrick, Andrea made the courageous decision to run for public office herself, where she proceeded to be a trailblazer. In 2015, she was elected to the Boston City Council, the first woman to represent District 4. In 2018, she was unanimously elected as City Council President, becoming the first Black woman to do so. And in January of 2023, she was sworn in as the Attorney General of Massachusetts, the first woman of color to hold that position. Now, since taking office, Andrea has focused on the following. She's worked to expand affordable housing, boosting economic prosperity for all. She has a focus on children's mental health and well-being. She's working to break the cycle of incarceration and violence that plagues so many. And very importantly, especially to those of us in the law, she's making the AG's office accessible to all residents, regardless of zip code, language, or ability. We extend a very heartfelt thanks to you for joining us tonight. Now, our fabulous MC Tiziana Deering will lead the conversation with the Attorney General. As many of you know, Tiziana is the host of Radio Boston on WBUR. She's been a commentator and contributor to WBUR for over a decade and has been contributing to local and national media outlets for more than 20 years. Before joining the Radio Boston team, Tiziana was a professor at Boston College at the School of Social Work, where she taught social innovation and leadership. Please join me in giving a warm Brookline Center and Women at the Center welcome to Attorney General Andrea Campbell and Tiziana Deering.
Just watching this situation. Thank you both. Safety.
She can clear podiums with her mere presence. Kind of fun to be up here, and it's not a debate. The last couple times we've been together were basically debates.
That's right. That's
It's
right.
Nice to see you.
I'm great. I just have to say, Madeline and your mom, incredible. And so just, we get all the round of applause, but you shifted the energy in the room and the space, and I'm an energy person because it's about showing up authentically in a very positive way and set the tone. So I'm so delighted to be here, and thank you to Ian, the Brookline Center, your entire staff team, the board, just all of your supporters for everything you do every day to support our communities. So just thank you. Happy to be here.
So, I'm guessing there's a couple places you could have been tonight. This is one, but there were probably many other, and that doesn't even include home. But you chose to be here. Why?
I think, one, the focus not just on the stats that were cited earlier about young girls. I'm a mother of 2 young boys, a 4-year-old and 6-year-old, and by the grace of God, so far, they are doing exceptionally well. But I'm mindful that other parents and caregivers and guardians and foster parents are in a different boat, that young girls in particular are struggling right now when it comes to depression, anxiety, suicide, that young people as a whole are struggling. There's a mental health epidemic, not just in Massachusetts, but in this country, and it existed before COVID. And so wanted to show up here to not just say we care about these issues at the AG's office, but to demonstrate in action that we care about these issues and to support an organization that is doing remarkable work, because you cannot do anything and have the greatest impact if you're not doing it in partnership with community-based organizations. So that's why I'm here. And there's a significant role I think the AG's office can play when it comes to these conversations, and there are a lot of meaningful tools we have to address it. So that's why I'm here.
So let's start personal and then kind of move up into the AG's office. Is there, when you're doing your work, is there the spirit of someone, whether it's you as a little girl yourself at 8 years old, or someone else you've known and encountered who is, I don't know, in the chair in your office or sitting here on the shoulder? Is there someone?
She's so good. You hear her on Radio Boston, and she's just is always so deep. The short answer is yes. We were talking earlier about how I start my day, and it's usually always away from technology, prayer, meditation, before my kids and husband wake up, just quiet time and space to reflect. And the work can be hard sometimes, so just staying centered in my faith is really important. I'm a very God-fearing woman, and I name that everywhere I go unapologetically, and what it does to sustain me. But the second is I've been and experienced tremendous loss. I think some folks know in this room that all of my biological parents are deceased. My mom died in a car accident going to visit my father, who was incarcerated at the time. My father was incarcerated for the first 8 years of my life. And actually, when my mom died, I was 8 months old, so I didn't know her at all. And she died when she was 25. So when you said I didn't think I was going to make it to 25, it always reflected on that as a little girl. Will I make it till I'm 25? So it just resonated deeply. I meet my father when I'm 8 years old. He gets out of prison. But then when I'm a sophomore at Princeton, I talked to him one morning. He died the same evening. And then fast forward, the trauma would not stop. My twin brother, Andre, would die while in the custody of the Department of Correction as a pretrial detainee as a result of receiving inadequate health care when he was only 29 years old. And so I have experienced tremendous loss and grief and suffering and pain. And so I carry the spirit of all of them too, probably Andre the most, because I think at the time in which he was sick and I, as a Princeton alum, as a lawyer, was trying to navigate various systems to get him the health care he deserved and access to the health care he deserved, and how challenging and difficult that was, even with those degrees, to be able to deliver on that. And obviously we didn't win that battle. Rather than stay in a place of anger or resentment, have continually thought about how I turn that pain into purpose. And my faith allows me to do that. So as I strive and push ahead on the tough days, I'm like, Andre, here we go. And it's wonderful. And I know there's some folks in here who might be really sad and going, oh my goodness, her story. Oh my. I am the happiest I've ever been in my entire life. Tremendous peace, authenticity, but authentic joy and peace, because I dealt with that trauma and grief, and continue to if it rears its ugly head, so that I can then, of course, do purpose-driven work to make sure other families don't experience what we did.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I'm going to check in. Can you see the Attorney General, or do I need to do some scooching? You want me to do a little scooching? Let me see if I can scooch. There, how's that? There we go. And everybody's seeing over there okay, yes?
I'll just try to do this.
Great.
We got a thumbs up in the back.
Every once in a while, we'll just go, hey. Catch you guys over there. All right, so there were a number of stages of elected office after other kinds of years of service. I know we have a cynical sense of why people run for office. I didn't hear any cynicism in what I just heard from you. So explain to me that step for you, what you saw as the potential in running for office. And did it feel countercultural to do that with the kind of mission you're just laying out, given how we have come to feel about what it means to try to get elected?
It's a tough industry. And if you didn't know that, you just have to turn on the news for a period of time. The divisiveness in this country is just depressing, frankly, to say the least, and scary at moments. The undermining of the rule of law, democratic institutions, the things we probably take for granted, the assault we're seeing on civil rights across this country, reproductive justice, access to health care, including gender-affirming care, which is critical for certain populations of folks, is upsetting, disappointing. Some days I'm just angry, especially with the recent Alabama decision around IVF. It's ridiculous. But
excuse me, the Alabama Supreme Court, for those of you who may not know, essentially granting personhood to frozen embryos and using biblical rather than legal arguments in the opinion as it was written.
That's right, and so I remind folks, reproductive justice is health care, and you should care about these issues. But as we're seeing all that, what keeps me hopeful is when I come across candidates who are running for all the right reasons. And I think we have too many people in this space in politics who make this work about them. This is not about me. It's not about us. It's about effectuating change. It truly is about service. And for me, it's about breaking cycles of poverty and criminalization, mediocrity, and doing that for other families, including my own boys. My husband and I, when we spend our time together, and I do date nights with my husband, it's wonderful. And I make sure I have energy for my job and him. We talk about and reflect how blessed we are and that we've already broken those cycles for my two boys. You know, we live in Mattapan. We're both homeowners. He came from a couple, or my mother-in-law and father-in-law who were homeowners. I did not come from that. So already breaking cycles for my two boys. We want to do the same for every other family. And so I am inspired when I see other candidates who are taking leaps of faith to run for office, frankly, more women, more people of color. For me, it was not something I envisioned. I started off as a math major at Princeton, thinking I wanted to do something in the math realm. That changed as life happened. Ended up going into sociology and Judaic studies. That's a whole separate panel. Always interested in
I kind of didn't see that one coming.
But always interested in Black and Jewish relations, particularly how it shows up in urban settings, including Boston, and those connections there. So I didn't think I would do this. It really was seeing someone like Governor Deval Patrick and the power and the value of having someone not just be at the table doing policy together, but the elected leader setting the agenda for the office, prioritizing what issues we're going to focus on. He always used his personal story to inform that work. And so I got folks who encouraged me to run for office. I ultimately ran for city council, and it was the best decision I made. And I think anytime you're on a path career-wise, if you're sort of testing, is this the path I'm meant to go, you should feel energized. And so every day I continue to feel more energized because I love my job. I love the council. I absolutely love being AG. It is a blessing to serve in this role. It's a significant role, and I take it with, I understand the responsibility and the seriousness of it, but I love it. And so we need more people, I call them the unusual suspects, running for office. Because the power to effectuate change in this political space is up to us. You know, invest in good candidates. Be encouraging to folks. And I encourage folks to do it all the time, but I will tell you I'm encouraging more women and people of color to consider running for office, and people with just different backgrounds and stories, including, frankly, the story we just heard. Having someone at the table who can have the lived experience on a particular policy or a particular lens is really powerful. We need more of it.
The challenges that we are facing in the mental health care arena in Massachusetts, and if you think of that as sort of the smaller circle in a larger circle of the challenges we're facing in healthcare capacity overall, can people who sit in elected office solve that problem?
Not by ourselves. I have been participating in a lot of convenings and conversations with a whole host of stakeholders, including our healthcare institutions. The most recent one I was probably a part of was a panel discussion involving Children's Hospital. One of the healthcare leaders from the city of Boston and other organizations in this space talking about what do we do as a collective to ensure folks have access to healthcare that is affordable and accessible, especially behavioral health services, and treating it as primary care, as a necessity. And what we all agreed is that we can't be siloed in this work. There's a role that government plays in one, prioritizing the issue, but also from where I sit, for example, as we just rolled out our strategic plan, what is our role in that? I think it is looking at reimbursement rates, working with the administration, the legislature on these issues. I say our policy and government tool is one we could utilize on the reimbursement rate issue and so many other things. Absolutely, in the litigation front, we're prioritizing young people. As Tom mentioned, we're taking on the social media companies. We have a multi-state investigation right now against Meta and Instagram for the role they're playing in perpetuating this mental health crisis we're seeing. There are some positive pieces of course, platforms, but there's some negative outcomes that we're seeing as well. And this is a large multi-state complaint. And I want to stress how important it is, because you have, I think, a space where Republicans and Democrats are actually working together to get something done. But that's a huge litigation that we've taken on, and that's obviously one of our tools in the office. The other is our grant-making tool. We get millions of dollars from the various litigation outcomes and settlements that we can almost design any type of grant program. We did one for maternal health last year, $1.5 million to address maternal health disparities, and gave those to community-based organizations as far as Berkshire County. The office has done a similar type of grant program for behavioral health organizations that are providing these services. We want to do more in that space. Because we know this center and the services that were talked about tonight and how critical and necessary they are, it's not available to everyone, say, in Western Mass or the South Coast part of the state or even Central Mass or some of our poorer rural communities. And after mine, folks, we have rural communities in Massachusetts where poor people live, but those pockets and gaps exist. And so how do we support organizations that have lesser resources so they can also be able to provide care? And then lastly, I will just say, we have, we call it our community engagement training tool. We do a lot around know your rights, what's available to you, basic information around resources. And I would bet that as we come across folks, as we do the work, they don't know about the Brookline Center. And so we stay connected with organizations like this, so when we get folks calling us with constituent service issues, we're able to actually provide them with resources that are not only timely, but high quality to be able to service them. And we cannot do that by ourselves. We have to do it in this ecosystem that we have, and we have one of the best ecosystems in the country.
I'm looking here not because I just want to check time, make sure I know I'm keeping good track here. No, that's all right. Okay, so you have launched a unit on elders. You've launched a unit on reproductive health and health. You've launched one on housing affordability, guns. You would never, I think, say, if I just said, okay, which one's the most important, right? You're going to be like, they're all important, or I wouldn't have launched them all, right? And obviously, you've got people working across them. But for every leader, there is that one that just has to get over the finish line, that just has to. And for you, what is the thing that just has to happen?
It's funny, I got that question last year, and I said, well, I'm only in year 1, and I just got here. So I don't know what that is. Because one thing I'm proud of in terms of what we're doing in the office is not only making it more accessible, as Tom has described, to everybody, not just lawyers knowing about the AG's office, but the tools it has to help everyday people is important. But as we sort of expand the reach of the office, I want folks to know us and, of course, to deliver for them. So all these new units, we're thoughtful in creating them. But now that I start year 2 and always remind myself why I do this work, going back to that turning pain into purpose, the breaking of cycles that I think every family has experienced in some way and wants the next generation to do better than the last, we know that prospect is just so much more difficult and challenging. The next generation is struggling even more, whether it's with mental health issues, tremendous fear around the economics and affordability, whether or not they'll be able to be more successful, whether or not they'll be able to grow their wealth, which would hopefully be larger than their parents and grandparents, real concerns about violence in our community. So the list is long in terms of the concerns that young people have. And so I think it's just that, going back to just whatever we do, is to make sure the next generation has it better than the last. And as much as I reflect on my biological parents' story, my dad in particular, who many would describe as quote unquote a criminal, and I obviously still have loved ones who are incarcerated as well, and I'm very mindful of that. For me, I know my parents, my family are very proud of me, including my aunt and uncle who are my parents, as I sit here in this role. And so even with that background, wow, look at her. That's what I want for other families. And I will say the stories that seem almost impossible, that's what I think our office should be really focused on. And when we think about equity, it's those folks who feel left out and left behind, who don't see hope, joy, or possibility, and particularly young people. So we're spending a lot of time with young people. I would just say earlier, you told folks to take their phone out and put it on airplane mode or do not disturb. I'm going to ask you before you leave this space to take your phone out, and if you are on social media, to follow us at MassAGO. And if you are not, visit us on our website, share with a friend a question. Do you know your Attorney General in that office? Because you'd be shocked how many people living here right in Massachusetts don't know about me, don't know about the AGO. And we have significant tools to help families, businesses, individuals every single day. But if they don't know about us, if they don't engage with us, it's not really possible for us to deliver, and especially for their children and that next generation. But I think that's what it is. The focus is on young people and making sure that they feel connected to us too.
So to finish, I'm going to come back to the personal with you for a minute. So you talked to Andre. You've said that already, right?
I talked to Andre.
You lost your mom when you were 8 months old. We're talking about women and girls' mental health tonight. Do you ever talk to your mom?
Well, so I have to take a step back. So I mentioned my aunt and uncle really quickly. They are my parents. So my aunt, who lives directly across the street from me, is my mom. I talk to that woman all the time. She is a prayer warrior. She has the gift of wisdom, which is we see as a God-given gift. She also has the gift of accessorizing, which is her own gift. And she wanted to name that the last time we were in church. I said, no one asked you to add that. She said, the gift of accessorizing. And she's like, I'm still working with you. But I will tell you, we are extremely close. So I talked to her because when I was younger, I would go to church with her. She planted seeds of faith in me. I'd often, frankly, go to church and think, why am I here? This is a waste of time. These people, I don't know, falling out, praying. Why am I here? But good thing she planted some seeds because they would be needed later on. And so I am talking to her frequently. Sometimes 1 in the morning, I will mosey across the street when it's really challenging to get her perspective on things because she sits outside of, I think, the bubble. But I'm blessed to have an aunt and uncle who are my parents and who, before anything else, along with my husband, put me first, the well-being of me. They care about my work, yes, but that will never, ever supersede, how are you doing? And I feel really blessed. The circle isn't very big to have that circle. And I encourage everyone in this space. Sometimes it's not your family members or biological parents, but that circle of people is so critical and so necessary. So yes, I pray, and I do hear, if you really are a believer or a praying person or a prayer warrior, as you pray, you hear different things, I think from angels or whatever, in a good way. But I also have real-life human beings who are here in the physical form that are absolutely supportive and offer such wisdom, love, and guidance with no judgment, so that when I go out into the world to do my job and to do this purpose-driven work, I'm showing up authentic all the time. People say, oh, you just have to turn it on and turn it off. No, I want to be myself everywhere I go. And I just think that's really critically important as we do this work. And so I'm talking to a lot of folks, but I feel really blessed to have my parents and my husband and, of course, my 2 beautiful boys. And I'll start crying as we talk about parents taking care of your kids and struggling and how hard it is to be parents. Also, my 2 beautiful boys, Aiden and Alexander, who sustain me in so many different ways. And, you know, they don't really know about this job. So they offer the support that is needed every day. So I'm grateful. So thank you.
And just for the record, I lost my mom more than a decade ago, and I talked to her. So I've got you on that. All right, so very last question. We're in a moment collectively. And I hear from people every day who are saying to me, it just feels wrong. I'm hurting, and the world scares me. And I think we are in a collective mental health moment that is worth addressing. And A, do you feel that? And B, as somebody who is here as your authentic self, bringing energy and positivity and a call to service, what is your message to people who may be feeling that? Ooh, I just lost there we go. Who may be feeling that way?
I'll say 3 things, and I do feel it. If you turn on the news, if you're just following anything happening, frankly, in the world, people say, how are you doing? I say, I'm doing just fine. The world is crazy and mad, and I feel so blessed with all that is available to me. So I stay in a place of gratitude. So I feel it too, and I am intentional about going deeper in my faith, surrounding myself with folks. But I think the number one thing is just being honest about where you are. I was sharing with you earlier, I was talking to a girlfriend earlier today who reached out because someone had a question for me and she wanted to see if she could pass it on and connect us. I said, sure, and how are you doing? And she says, oh, I'm doing well, and I hope you're doing well, and then sort of moved on. An hour later, a team member said, do you know that such and such? I said, I was just talking with her. She said, oh, I wanted you to know she can't come to your women's event because she just lost her sister. So as you can imagine, went back to her and said, excuse me, no, really, how are you doing? And she's struggling. She's struggling with grief and taking care of her family, her own kids, as they navigate the unexpected loss of her sister. So I think it's just number one, being honest about where you are. Someone says, how are you doing? If you're great, great. If you're not okay, I'm not doing okay right now. I just think it's critical. And I have folks where I can sort of do that, and I think it's important. The second is, and actually I'll take a step back on that, because I have an uncle, when I was really struggling with grief around this loss of my twin brother, who said to me, it's okay not to be okay. And that's always sort of rung true with me. It's okay not to be okay, and to normalize that. But the second is professional help. Everyone has gone through something traumatic, and still the stigma or shame of seeking out help from a professional. Yes, I'm a praying woman, but my pastor and bishop, they're not therapists. They have some tools. They don't have a lot of the tools that may have been needed when I was going through significant trauma and grief. So not being afraid of seeking out help from a professional who knows what they're doing, who knows what they're talking about, who will open up their arms and in conversation and give you what you need, and preferably not a family member, a real professional, frankly, I think is really important. And there may be some folks in this room that are going through things and you might need some help. Go get it. At the end of the day, the only person that matters is you, right? And then lastly, in the context of just the madness of the world, I mentioned earlier the rule of law being under attack, every civil right you can think of, the bipartisan, or I should say partisan nature, the politicization of the Supreme Court, I mean, the list is long. Get involved. There are ways in which we can be getting involved to change the course and direction in which this country is frankly headed. And I think people discount their power to be able to participate. And yes, it's through voting, but there are other ways. There are folks doing all types of things with respect to voter protection, election protection, supporting candidates who are in the work for all the right reasons. Just think about getting a little political. And that might mean starting with knowing who your elected officials are in your own state, figure out what they're supposed to be doing on your behalf, and if they're not doing it, well, elect somebody else. But it's just really important to get involved in this moment in time, and I think some people want to put their head down and hide because it is so scary. We don't have the luxury of doing that, especially if we say we want the next generation to have access to the same level of health care that this center is providing every single day. If we want folks to have access to reproductive justice and reproductive health care. If we want folks to be able to go to school and actually afford it and not be weighed down with student debt. If we want the next generation to do better than the last. All of us have a role to play in being, I think, a little bit more political. And for me, that means thinking about all those things I just mentioned. So that third piece, and I think there's inspiration in that. You don't have to find every elected official, but find one or someone to support, to attach to support in this work, because it's hard. I think the governor and others would agree. I think the president would agree, the vice president and other people in Congress and our congressional delegation as well. But get involved. And I think if you actually are attached in a positive way, I hope it offers some inspiration to continue to forge ahead, to really change the trajectory of this country so that it is equitable and fair to everybody. Thank you.
That was the right time for the big applause. We are wrapping up our fireside chat. I do want to thank you again for the transparency and the thoughtfulness and the time. As the Attorney General and I leave the stage, I'm going to ask everyone to remain in their seats. There's one presentation left to close out the evening. Here to present the 2024 Edna Award for Distinguished Leadership, please welcome Karen Miller and Christina Yee.
Thank you, Tiziana. Can you hear me? Is this working? Thank you, Tiziana, and thank you, Attorney General Campbell. How fortunate for those of us who call Massachusetts home to have someone like Attorney General Campbell representing the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Christina and I have been members of the Brookline Center's Board of Directors alongside Georgia Johnson for a number of years now. To say we are honored to be the spokespersons on behalf of the full board would really be an understatement. When we, and by we I mean all of you, all of us in this entire room tonight, each of us take just a moment to think about individuals that we've worked with in various capacities over the course of our lifetimes. There typically are few that truly stand out. Georgia is a standout. Why? Beyond being the capable and innovative leader she's always been, Georgia has the unique ability of stepping into place, any place, without the intent nor the goal of being in the spotlight, of taking the lead, or crossing the finish first. Instead, she enters the fray, comes to the negotiating table, or embraces the task at hand, becoming the perfectly placed last piece of a complex puzzle. She completes the group, every group, while bringing out the absolute best in all of those now working alongside her. A collaborator to the core, she never says no. And brings with her not just her straight-talking, clearly direct, sometimes no holes barred, on-the-money head, she also brings her enormously generous heart, accompanied by a huge, hearty, infectious laugh with an absolutely spot-on sense of humor in tow.
The first woman at the center, Edna Stein, created and laid down the very foundation that capable and creative leaders like our Georgia have embraced, taking up the torch and sustaining these values for the benefit of so many others to follow in her well-established footsteps. A gifted innovator and advocate for people living with mental illness, Edna Stein was the founder of the Brookline Center for Community Mental Health. She was a champion for community mental health care and a visionary who dedicated her entire life to supporting individuals with mental illness, in particular, at a time when many struggling with mental illness were sent away. Thank you. Placed out of view, isolated from, and no longer part of their community. In honor of Edna's life work, the Women at the Center Committee established the Edna Award for Distinguished Leadership to recognize the significant contributions to the mental health and well-being of our community. This year, we are thrilled to present the award to Georgia Johnson. Georgia receives tonight's award in recognition of her enormous dedication to the Brookline Center, serving as a board member since 2005. She has been a driving force behind Women at the Center since its inception, twice having served as the co-chair of the Believe in Brookline Kids Gala and was the founding chair of the Center's Strategic Development Committee. Georgia also served as our board president from 2020 to 2022, helping the center successfully navigate the pandemic and meet the challenges in its aftermath.
I didn't mention at the end there that work actually gets done with Georgia, and she's tremendous fun to work with. Georgia's commitment to the Brookline Center, her dedication to expanding access to mental health care, and her caring, action-based leadership has inspired us all. Georgia, on behalf of the Women at the Center, the Brookline Center Board, and the entire Brookline Center for Community Mental Health, it is with absolute joy that we present you with the Edna Stein Leadership Award. Come on up. Before we leave the stage, just an FYI, there is a surprise for you underneath your table, apparently, so don't go home without it.
Karen and Christina, thank you both so much. Truthfully, I had no idea what to say. This is an incredible honor, and particularly to have it awarded by two women who have made an enormous impact on the center, its work, and its future. It is really, I am very humbled and incredibly honored. Thank you. I promise to be short. But I want to say that the work of the Brookline Center is critical, both in Boston and its environs, but increasingly around the within the wider world. Mental health care has been hidden and stigmatized for so long. It's an enormous privilege to have been a part of the effort to change that, and to have been on a front row seat at the center while it changes the approaches to behavioral health care that will make it available on a broader and more holistic scale. Thank you all, the center's board and staff, and all who support the center. You have not only done incredible work that's been very impactful for our community and beyond, but you have been an integral part of my personal community. And I thank you for that, and I will be forever grateful. Thank you so much.
Honor, and I see several people in the room have already picked up on what comes next, which is that we say thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for sharing the evening with us at the 2024 Women at the Center Kickoff. It is deeply gratifying to be part of a community that values women and girls mental health. And now, mwah, good night.
She's just a girl, but she's on fire.